Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's mindfulness practices. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're new here, I am your host for tonight, Frank Baird. Normally, Vivian is with me, but right now she is doing some research since the theme for this month is pain. She thought she would practice experiencing some pain tonight. So she won't be joining us. She's okay, but just not feeling top notch. So let's start with some information about how to participate tonight. So this is a drop-in class suitable for any level of knowledge or practice. You don't have to know anything to be here except how to use the internet and your device and to get here. But in terms of the content of the class, you don't have to have any prior knowledge or experience. There are a couple of ways to communicate with me. One is if you go to the Ask Question box, then your comments or questions will come directly to me and me alone. Or the attendee chat is open and you can type something in the attendee chat and that will be shared with everyone. Your identity won't be shared. I think we keep getting like an initial and a number, and the initial is P, like participant 17. We'd like that to be different, but that's the platform we've got, protecting your identity. But you can drop something in the attendee chat, and everybody can see that. So I'd like it if you could put something in the attendee chat right now related to, did you use a particular practice this week? So if you're coming here, if you've been here before, maybe use the practices that we talked about last week or some other practice that we've introduced or we've done here. Or if this is your first time here, any practices that you do in terms of well-being in your everyday life. Another thing you could pop into the chat is, have you noticed any benefits from the practice this week or from the skills that you've picked up from this class or other places? Or another question is, have you had any personal insights from practice in this past week? Insight is one of the benefits of these practices, right? In addition to having skills for how to be in the world, how to exist, we get insight. We learn a little bit about ourselves and our relationship to phenomena and the world. So here, thank you for hopping in on the chat. So here, some folks are using the Calm app and box breathing. Someone is saying this is our first class with you, so welcome. Thank you. And any questions that come up, you can always pop them into the attendee chat or the ask questions box. Someone says, I've been using being in observation and not resistance to the feelings that arise that may not be all that wonderful, and some deep breathing. So I hear that in connection with how to be present even when we don't want to be present because something is unpleasant, right? It's sort of our lived experience suggests that if I can find a way to check out, like to dissociate or check out, that that works better than being present in the with something unpleasant. And sometimes that's a good strategy and sometimes not. And I think of the difference between having flexibility around that, knowing when it's skillful to stay in contact with the unpleasant and knowing when it's skillful to disengage. Somebody wrote that they're using the Calm app and sleep podcasts. Yeah, I semi-regularly use not the Calm app, but YouTube has a lot of ambient videos that are like the sound of rain in a forest or rain on a city street. I like rain a lot. Or howling wind. Apparently, I wish I was in a blizzard somewhere with a roaring fire nearby, but apparently I like blizzards. Someone's listening to white noise at night. Someone is walking and enjoying being outdoors. Someone said that they do meditation every day. And then let's see some more avoidance and meditation in the evenings to help with sleep. Nice. Practicing mindful breathing helps whenever I start to feel unwelcome stress and also to relax from worries as I try to fall asleep. Yeah. Yeah. These days people talk about sleep hygiene. And one of the aspects of sleep hygiene is how do we convince our body to convince our brain to shut up and go to sleep, to stop playing out all the scenarios from the day, either earlier today or in anticipation of tomorrow, or how to just stop all the noise. So a lot of these practices are really helpful then. And it's also nice to have YouTube and to have the Calm app. Being more present in the moment instead of thinking about the future helps a lot. Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. Until I started practicing mindfulness, I didn't notice how often I'm just busy not being here, but being in the future. And depending on the day, that future was really, really pleasant. Like, I can't wait to get there. Or really unpleasant, which is like, well, this is how everything's going to turn out. Either way, there caused some suffering here, because if it was pleasant, I wanted to be there, not here. And if it was unpleasant, I just felt like everything I'm doing is leading toward that. And that just, none of that worked for me. I didn't know it though. Someone has said, I've been walking, and I have to say, I'm sorry I keep saying someone, because I'd like to just say everybody's name, but apparently we're not supposed to do that here. I've been walking, and the first 15 minutes choosing not to listen to a podcast or music, but rather observing nature. Yeah, I imagine, maybe not, but I'm kind of imagining how difficult that can be, right? We've become so accustomed to having stuff entertain us relentlessly that the slow pace of entertainment in nature compared to that podcast. Or I think of all the dopamine hits I can get from, listening to a show. A lot of folks are using Calm daily, and let's see, trying to look at others with more open eyes and recognize their uniqueness. I'm happier when I look for people's humanity, learning to enjoy the moment because this moment is my life. That is really beautiful. And I think often we don't think about how we view or experience other people. We focus on ourselves. But one of the things that they found in happiness research, I don't know why it took so long for people to start researching happiness and find out what are the components of happiness. But generosity is the key component to happiness. And generosity means lots of different things to different people. But one of the ways I experience it is I'm going to have a generous attitude toward other people. And it makes a significant difference in terms of like the level of happiness, but also the reduction of feelings of aloneness or isolation, either wanting to be alone more or just feeling like other people are scary or bothersome. And it also decreases anxiety. So someone's asking now, am I in the right place? The title was Mindfulness Practice, Ouch, the Body Pain. What is pain? Yes, you're in the right place. We are getting around to that. This was in response to the question I asked if people were using some of the practices that we have been introducing here, or if they're familiar with Calm, etc. But yes, this month, the topic is ouch, body pain. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit. So today I'm going to say a little bit about some ideas, some conceptualizations of what we call pain, with some ideas and suggestions about some things you might experiment with that can help it feel more manageable or less unpleasant. And then what we're going to do is a practice related to that. And then each week this month, we'll be doing practices related specifically to physical pain. These same practices you can use with emotional pain, and we're talking specifically about physical pain, uh, because it, well, I was going to say because it's not abstract like emotional pain, but you'll see as I start to talk about what is pain, you'll see that it's all abstract. There are physical sensations and then there are abstractions. So let's start with what is pain. So most of us think of pain as unpleasant physical sensations. And one of the things I think can be helpful, so I say can be helpful. This is not, you, none of our practices are like force yourself to think this or just think this and then it's not a problem, right? But one of the things I think about pain is the word evokes specific things for us. And we think of pain as like the word to use when something is really unpleasant or something hurts a lot. And one of the things you might play around with, explore, is a phrase like this. Now, nobody uses this phrase, and good luck if you were experiencing some pain and you talk to your doctor this way, but as a thought experiment, if nothing else, going, pain is really, I am feeling some sensations that I experience as unpleasant, and because it's unpleasant, I call it pain. Right. So again, good luck telling your doctor that I'm experiencing some unpleasant physical sensations. I'm calling it pain, right? The doctor just wants to know, where does it hurt? But here's what I think about that. How we think about things often makes the thing. And so pain as a word doesn't have much movement in it. Like I can only have an adverse relationship to the word pain, right? Then it's degrees of pain. Is it like 1 on a pain scale, or is it 10 on a pain scale, or 12 on a 1 to 10 pain scale, right? That's different than I'm experiencing some unpleasant physical sensations. One of the things we'll be talking about this month is how to unpack that, or I think of it as how to deconstruct sort of the monolith of pain. Pain is like this thing that hurts. And if you start paying attention to the sensations that we end up calling pain, there's a lot to be discovered there. It's not monolithic. And sometimes what can happen is the experience of those sensations can shift. So I'm not talking about the power of positive thinking, right? Where it's just like, I'm just going to pretend it doesn't hurt, right? I'm talking about existentially a different experience and a different relationship to the unpleasant sensations that we end up calling pain. So that's going to be some of what we're working on and working with this month. But essentially starting with pain is unpleasant physical sensations. The next idea to explore here is, where is pain happening? So one of the things that happens is if I stub my toe, where is pain happening? So most of us are going to say, my toe is what hurts. And here's an interesting thing about pain. Again, I'm going to compulsively do air quotes around all these words. What it means is these words are far more complicated than we often recognize. Right? But where pain is actually happening is in the brain. It's not happening in the toe. What's happening in the toe is some nerve signals are saying something's going on here, and they're sending signals to the brain, and it's in the brain that we conclude pain is happening. Right? Actually, in the brain, we're going unpleasant physical sensations, and then this next bullet point in the slide, what is the function of pain? So pain has an alert function. It's to alert you that something is going on, pay attention. Right? So alert means pay attention. So it sends a signal to the brain says pay attention. At its basic, that's what the function of this nerve signal is. Pay attention. And then depending on what you notice, there are different things that you do in response. So you need mindful attention to respond to that signal, instead of what we mostly do is we react to the signal. We read it and experience it as pain. I don't like it. I don't want it. So what can I do to stop the pain? And that's often where we get trapped, is I'm experiencing this discomfort right here, right now. My effort is to try not to experience this discomfort. And then we're not recognizing whether our effort to try to not experience the discomfort is helpful or not. And I would like to suggest, in what you'll learn tonight and over the course of this month's theme, is some of the ways that it's not helping and some other ways to approach this. So one of the things about pain is this. This is the challenge around physical discomfort. How to listen to it. By listen, I mean how to pay attention to it, especially when we want to get away from it. How do I pay attention to it with that alert signal? I have to pay attention, because is the message here to take care? So like using the example of I stubbed my toe. Actually, I'll use a different example, because this is right. Let's say I'm touching a hot stove. Like I have one of those electric stoves, and when it isn't on, it's just a black surface, and I might set something there, or I might lean against it while I'm talking to somebody, right? If I'm not paying attention. So I didn't know it was hot. So let's say I get a signal that says something, unpleasant sensation happening in your hand. Is the signal take care? Like in this instance, Frank, move your hand. Or is the message, work with this? I would say in this example, it's like, Frank, move your hand. Often though, what we don't discern, because we're not paying attention, is this signal to pay attention. If I pay attention and I listen to what's going on with those sensations, it might be the kind of thing where I stop doing the thing, right? So example of hand on stove, I move my hand off the stove. But let's say I'm having some knee trouble, and I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, something you work through, or something you work with, or something you stop. So this is where our cognitions, the way we're thinking about it, have a huge influence, right? So I've got I don't know if any of you have ever been to like physical therapy, right? Physical therapists are really good at saying, yeah, when that hurts, don't do that. They're also really good at saying like, yes, so that's gonna hurt. And what you need to do is cautiously work with it, because in order to restore your movement, or kind of, these are therapy words, not PT words, but like reclaim your wellness, regain your functionality. It's like you feel it and you don't push through it, because even they'll say never push through pain, but working with it, because what it is the message or the alert isn't there's damage, right? That's how I tend to relate to anything. I stub my toe, damage, protect the toe. And sometimes what we're experiencing is no damage has been done. There's some unpleasant physical sensations. So what relationship am I going to take to the unpleasant physical sensation? So apparently I have two of that slide. So here's how to listen, right? And this month and tonight, we're going to explore different ways to relate to this. So doable things, right? Not just these ideas. But the way to listen to anything is to make a gentle, friendly effort to be with whatever's happening, right? In a way, you have to be with it, or make the effort to be as with it as you can be for now, because that gives you accurate perception, right? Reactivity is all I know is physical discomfort, pain, and I'm out of here. right? Many of us will do this, right? A little bit of pain, time for Advil, time for Tylenol, right? I have zero tolerance for any of it. The unfortunate part about that is that then the pain has to be, or the physical discomfort or the signal has to be bigger than ever to get our attention, or to make it through medications that we're taking that do the job, but sometimes we're taking too much medication. So this gentle, friendly effort that we talk about here with mindfulness, and will be part of our practice tonight, to be with the phenomena, to be with the sensations. And then one of the things we're especially going to focus on tonight is, can you notice the difference between the qualities of the physical sensations and the thoughts and the feelings you have about the physical sensations? So if you think about what I said earlier, right, there's a sensation that happens when with the impact of my toe against the corner of the wall, and then it goes to my brain, and my brain says, the signal says alert, and then I start doing things. One is the physical thing of like, move my toe back. The other physical thing is like, ow, 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 ow. And then also what's happening is a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions about what's happening. So notice there are the sensations way down there in my toe and way up here, because I'm tall, in my brain are a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions around what's going on way down there in my toe. So being able to tell the difference, for reasons that I'll tell you about more in a little bit, but being able to tell the difference, is this a thought about the sensation? Is this a feeling about the sensation? Or is this the sensation itself? Because it makes a difference whether you're trying to be with the sensation or with the thoughts or the feelings about the sensation. So, I guess I should say trigger warning here. I don't know if you've ever had a thing happen to your toe where you stubbed it and then the toenail comes off, right? Like how you hit it, and because of the hit, the damage, the toenail falls off. So what you might notice now as you hear that is this, right? When I hear that, I have a whole set of scenarios or scenes playing in my head, and then a lot of emotions around that. And right now, I didn't stub my toe. And right now, my toenail isn't like threatening to fall off. But that's one of the things, right? What we do is we don't notice that our attention is primarily in the thoughts and the feelings about the unpleasant sensations, the sensations that we don't like. Primarily in the thoughts and the feelings. So here then, how do I interrupt? How do I change the focus so that my attention isn't in those thoughts and feelings and it's anywhere else? Anywhere else. So some of what we'll talk about this month is how to focus, narrow the focus of attention and redirect it and move it to something else. Part of what we'll talk about this month is how to widen the focus of attention and put the experience in a context. And then one of the skills we'll talk about this month and practice is, how do I bring my attention to the sensations that I so don't want to be near? How do I bring my attention to that so that I can start to really discern the difference between the sensation and the thought about the sensation? Because so often the thought and the feeling about the sensation is, I can't stand this, while I'm busy standing it, right? And by standing, I mean the physical sensation is tolerable. I don't think it is, and I don't feel it is, but physiologically, apparently it is. So wouldn't it be nice to be connected with that? Still acknowledging it's unpleasant, it's unpleasant, it's unpleasant. I don't like it. I don't want it. Please go away. All of that still, and being able to discern between the thought and the feeling about it and the it. So one of the things that we often do with unpleasant physical sensations that we call pain is this. So let's say I've got this thing going on in my shoulder and I spend all day trying to redirect my attention from the physical sensation that's happening in my shoulder, and all day it feels like my attention is going back to the physical sensation in my shoulder. One of the things you might notice is mostly our attention goes briefly to the sensation, like the sensation is just a prompt for all the thoughts and the emotions. So when we're trying to get away from the physical sensation, we're actually really trying to get away from the thoughts and the feelings about the sensation. So there are some skills that you can use to help with this. And here's the process. So one thing is noticing what's going on and where it's going on. So is this that I am, say, reacting to or trying to get away from? Is it a thought? Is it a feeling? Is it a sensation? And mostly, at least at the start of practice, it's just going to be a big knot. It's going to be all of those. But here's the thing in this practice. So noticing what's going on and where, and then acknowledging or naming it. So tonight, we're going to be talking about specifically a sensation. So using the example of I stubbed my toe, I'm acknowledging that there is an unpleasant, like a really hugely unpleasant sensation happening in my toe right now. And then I'll name it. You could use the word pain. We're going to talk about some, maybe some words that serve you better because they're more nuanced, but pain is good enough. And then acknowledging the feeling tone of the sensation. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Mostly we'll be talking about unpleasant, right? Because if it's neutral, we don't notice it. If it's pleasant, we don't call it pain. So mostly it's unpleasant, and we do predictable things in relation to the feeling tone. Pleasant, we want to lean into it. We want more of it. Neutral, we don't care. We don't even notice it. And unpleasant, we want to get away from it. Like that is built into us like at a cellular level. So here, the challenge is, how do I become more skillful in having a choice about the relationship I'm taking to these unpleasant physical sensations, instead of just what I'm conditioned to do or I'm in the habit. So I mentioned this, right? Some ways to do this is directing attention toward the sensations, because if they're toward the sensations, they're not so much in the thoughts or feelings about the sensations, and you can have a different experience potentially with that practice. The other is directing attention away or toward something else. We often call that distraction. I mentioned earlier the narrowing of the focus, the widening of the focus, and then here are some other things. Adding self-compassion or self-kindness, because that occupies and flavors the focus. I don't know if you've ever done this, but like if I stub my toe, it's really easy for me to go, "You idiot," right? Like I should have watched where I was going, or right, I should have done something, and then a lot of name calling, which doesn't help. Because now I've got the unpleasant physical sensation, and I've also got a lot of unpleasant emotional stuff going on, unpleasant mental activity. Or sometimes we do this, right? Like let's say I tripped over my partner's shoes because I always leave their shoes on the floor, and then I stubbed my toe. Then I might get really mad at my partner and call my partner names, either out loud or in the privacy of my own head. That just brings more negativity, right? Because it's like, my partner's such an idiot. And then I must be an idiot for being in a relationship with an idiot. So we all suck. And my toe just hurts more and more and more. So one of the activities you can do with attention is infusing it with self-compassion and self-kindness for the being that is suffering, and for you who are trying to be with the unpleasant sensations that you have to be with, because if you didn't have to be with them, you wouldn't be with them. So that's what we'll be exploring. So with all that said, let's do some practice. So if you're new here, or if you're not new here, right, the how to practice is this. Get comfortable. Find a comfortable posture. Your eyes can be open or closed. And really all you have to do is pay attention to my voice, listen to my voice, and notice what goes on, what happens. And as best you can, cultivate a gentle, friendly effort to be with whatever's happening. So this is regardless of whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Can I make a gentle, friendly effort to be with it? And notice it's a question, and maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no, or maybe for 10 seconds the answer is yes, for 8 minutes it's no, and then for another 10 seconds it's yes, right? Keep coming back to making a friendly, gentle effort, and then stop if you need to, or if you want to, right? Trust your judgment around this. So with all that said, let's practice. So one of the ways to start a practice, especially if there's a lot of thinking going on, a lot of feelings going on, a lot of physical sensations going on, is to start by settling the body. And one of the ways to settle the body is to bring attention to the body. Notice what's going on in the body right now. And then you might ask yourself, are there any adjustments I can make to my body that would help me be here to do this practice? So adjustments might be, if I'm sleepy, to sit up straighter, to stand up doing the practice, maybe to open my eyes if they're closed. Or if the challenge at the moment is my body is really tense and tight, then can I let go of any of that tension and tightness, just for now? And again, in answer to these questions, sometimes it's maybe I can, maybe I can't. It's a gentle, friendly effort to be more alert or to settle down and be less tense, more at ease. So bringing attention to the body and making any helpful adjustments with a friendly, gentle effort. And then I think it's helpful to sometimes take a deep, purposeful breath. Slow and deep, a full inhalation. And then you might hold it just for a moment. And then a full exhalation. And you might do that a couple of more times. This is a way of announcing to the body, I'm not just thinking about practicing now, I'm doing it. With this inhalation, I'm practicing, and then letting it out. I'm practicing now. And then if you'd like, one more deep, full breath. Breathing in and a deep, full exhalation. And sometimes it helps to make a gentle, friendly effort to be as still as you can be right now. So still is always relative. But how still can I be in this moment? And often in that effort for stillness, I might notice some tension that's still lingering somewhere that I can let go of. How still can I be in this moment? You might feel the body breathing, and you might feel how the body breathes on its own. You don't have to make it breathe. Your body does it for you. So for now, can you bring attention to breathing, focusing attention on breathing, and just feel it happening? You don't have to breathe in any particular way. Just feeling this breath that's happening now. And one of the ways you can practice is whenever attention wanders off or gets pulled away, which it will do inevitably, when you notice, gently bring it back to breathing. Let breathing be a place to rest attention, or a place to restart the effort at paying attention. Bringing attention back to breathing and just feeling it happen. And noticing where attention is now. And as best you can, letting it be okay. Wherever my attention is, oh, well, there it is. And then gently bringing it back to breathing. So sometimes it's easier to keep bringing attention back to breathing. Sometimes it's more challenging. This is a practice where having a narrow focus of attention, noticing where it is, and then bringing it back to where you meant it to be. It's helpful in so many ways. It can feel ordinary or trivial or sometimes even boring, but the skill is the foundation for so much well-being. Where is my attention now? Is that where it needs to be, where I wanted it to be? And then I like the audacity of going, I'm going to bring it back to breathing just because I decided. to bring it back to breathing. Just feeling breathing happening. And now let's do a little mindful exploring. So bring attention to any place in your body. You might want to leave it with breathing, or bring it to any place in your body, your left pinky finger, or your right foot, or your belly. The idea here is pick a place to direct your attention and feel whatever sensations are happening there. If you've picked a place where there's not a lot of noticeable sensations happening, you might redirect your attention to some other place in the body. And notice the qualities of these sensations. So are these sensations that are happening in this place that you're focusing on? Are the sensations easy to notice? Are they obvious? Or are they loud? Are they more subtle or quiet? Or temporary? Is it a sensation that has a particular kind of duration, or does it come and go? Do these sensations that are happening in this place, are they lingering? Are they changing? Is there a temperature happening? Like these sensations, is there a warmth to them, or a coolness to them, or a hotness or coldness, or no particular temperature at all? Like if I hadn't mentioned it, you wouldn't notice. Exploring, so not making anything happen, or at least trying not to make anything happen, or if you're making something happen, giving up on the effort to make something happen. And instead, is it possible for me to focus on this sensation? Just notice the qualities of the sensation. I'm going to offer some words, and you can consider, do these words fit or not? And so be careful not to think too much about it, right? Because then what will happen is your attention will shift into cognition. But just noticing, I mentioned some words, do they resonate with, yeah, that fits with the sensation that's happening right now? So, words like smooth, or streaming, warm, cool. relaxed, open, light, spacious, airy, releasing, expansive. One of the ways you might relate to hearing these words is, does the word immediately fit with the sensation that you're paying attention to, or do you find yourself thinking? Does the word take you into thinking? I would suggest that if it takes you into thinking, it's not the right word for the sensation. Right? So this is one way to notice, where is my attention going? Is it going more toward thinking about, or more toward the qualities of the sensation? Flowing, tense, tight, thick, contracted, sensitive, tender, throbbing, pounding, tingling, soft, and in this part of the practice, if attention gets pulled away or wanders off, bring it back to this sensation and see if you can reconnect with, what are the qualities of this sensation? When my attention comes back, are they the same or similar qualities, or is it different somehow? Maybe it's easier to notice, harder to notice. And now we'll shift attention a little bit again. As we near the end of this practice, I invite you to bring some kindness or compassion to yourself, or maybe some gratitude for making this effort, for trying this practice, for caring about yourself enough to be here to see if what's offered here is helpful. So if you'd like, if it feels fitting, you might focus on you and express appreciation. I like to use words. Sometimes people use a feeling or they imagine colors. But with words, it would be something like, thank you for your effort during this practice. Or I appreciate your attention. Or thanks for hanging out. Or even just something like, thank you. Thank you. And to conclude our practice, if your eyes are closed, you might open them, move them around. You might move your head around, turn it, tilt it, maybe shrug your shoulders, stretch, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, yawn if you'd like. And now we have some time for some comments, questions, explorations. So again, if you have a comment or question, pop it into either the attendee chat or the ask question box. Since it's just me tonight, I'll be skimming both of them to see questions or comments when they come up. While you're doing that, one of the things you might consider doing between now and next week is pausing periodically and bringing attention to your body, either some specific part or your entire body, and then notice and acknowledge the feeling tone. Is this pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And that's it. That's it for the practice. Right? So that might be something like I'm sitting in this chair and then I go, okay, I'm going to stand up, and I stand up and then I immediately decide to bring attention to my whole body. Standing up, body feels pretty pleasant. It's liking the shift in posture, and that's it. Then carry on. Or I am sitting and I stand up and it's unpleasant. Right? Because I'm noticing I feel stiff because I've been sitting for so long. Right? All you're doing is noticing pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. To start with, things start happening when we notice and acknowledge that feeling tone. But for now, the practice is a small step. Yeah. I'm walking from my car to someplace. And I notice I bring attention to the sensations in my feet. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. I look up in the sky and it's a nice clear blue sky. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Not my mood about the clear blue sky, but the experience in the eyes. Because I could look up in a clear blue sky and accidentally look at the sun, and that's going to be decidedly unpleasant. Right, so that's all it is for this week. So any comments or questions about this practice or my description of pain? So let's see, is it more effective to practice mindfulness multiple times throughout a day or one extended mindfulness practice daily? this is where you get one of those answers that's both accurate and irritating, which is the answer is yes. Um, so a lot of times people will say extended practice, the benefit of extended practice is, well, I'll back up. Any practice is practice and it's beneficial. If it's if you find that it's less challenging to get around to practicing, to do it in brief intervals, do it in brief intervals. And one of the potential benefits of a longer period of time is that you sort of increase your stamina. Yeah, it's sort of like the difference between, say, a sprint. I'm using a sports metaphor again, which I shouldn't do. But a sprint and running a marathon. And I think of life as a marathon. So one of the things that happens with longer practice is you'll notice things like the limit of my interest in practicing, or the limit of my ability to practice. Or you might notice this, like one of the benefits of a longer practice with physical discomfort is that sometimes it arrives, right? So I'm sitting down, I'm doing a meditation practice, and I feel very cozy and comfortable. And then let's say I'm doing a half-hour sit, and 15 minutes in, my back starts to hurt. So the benefit of that is, what am I going to do in relation to the experience of the physical sensations happening in my back? Am I going to stop meditating? Am I going to adjust my posture so that I feel a little more comfortable, or, yeah, a little more comfortable, a little less of the discomfort? And the idea is be mindful of all of that. So when you do it for longer periods of time, in some ways, you're extending your capacity for paying attention for longer periods of time. And the potential for insight is greater because you're paying attention for a longer period of time, and you're starting to notice a lot of nuanced things happening, which is different phenomena happen, and I have different relationships to the different phenomena. And I would say, in the context of tonight's class, it'll all be related to the feeling tone. If it's pleasant, I can hang out with it for a long, long time. And if it's unpleasant, I'd like it to go sooner than later. And for me, along with neutral, comes a lot of times comes boring. I'm really bored, and I have a very low tolerance for boredom too. But if I notice that, right, like I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes, and the first 5 minutes were really delightful. And then the next, the 6th minute, I start becoming bored, and then I'll notice things like thoughts coming up, like, how am I going to make it through the remaining minutes of this long meditation? Because I'm now experiencing boredom now and anticipating boredom. And you'll notice that the way I think about it makes a big difference. I used to do a thing around meditation practices where I would say, so we've got 2 minutes left in this meditation. Notice what happens when you hear me say you've got 2 minutes left. A lot of cognition happens, a lot of thoughts, and then a lot of emotions related to that. So if the meditation was really pleasant, somebody might be feeling like, please, no, don't, I don't want it to end. Or if it was really unpleasant, somebody might be thinking and feeling like, well, it's about time. And if somebody wasn't paying attention, they'd go, what? Did you say something? So in a way, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is, oh, I noticed what was happening. I was just doing whatever I was doing. So I was having either a pleasant, unpleasant, or a neutral experience. And then the thinking happened and it shifted. Maybe it shifted to more pleasant or more unpleasant. Or maybe I amplified the experience, the feeling tone that was happening, or maybe I shifted it. But it helps to notice that, because then the skillfulness is I can use that. I'm not just reacting to whatever's going on. I can use that. That, in terms of tonight's topic, is really helpful, because mostly what we're doing is we're reacting to physical discomfort with aversion to try to get away from it. And we don't notice, we can't depending on what the it is. The physical sensations are the physical sensations. I can do different things with my attention that shift my experience. So they don't necessarily make the sensations go away or make them pleasant, but they can shift my experience. And that's really what you can do with this ability to direct and redirect attention. So I know we're out of time, but I want to, there's a comment here. Due to the massive amount of rain and my yard is full of weeds, I found myself going into deep depression because the pain in my lower back is unbearable. Yeah. So just a note about that, and maybe this fits for you, maybe it doesn't, but one of the things is, right, the rain in the backyard, and now I have thoughts and feelings about the implications of the rain in the backyard or the weeds, right? So what I'm focused on is I'm thinking thoughts and scenarios, probably that involve going out and bending over a lot, and either feeling pain because of that or exacerbating the pain that I already have in my back. All that can be happening, and I haven't even shifted my position right now. This thought came to mind, and now my body is most likely constricting around the thought and the anticipation of the unpleasantness of it. Or depression happens, right? Because I feel like defeated. I'd like to weed my yard, but I can't because of fill in the blank, but probably at least physical discomfort. So now I've got a story about me and my capacity. So some things you might experiment with are, oh yeah, those are thoughts. Name them. Those are thoughts. Those are feelings. What's happening right now, the experience I'm having is the thought in my head is having this effect because I'm paying attention to that thought. What happens if I shift my attention to a different thought? If I can. Can't always do that, right? Or what happens if, somebody comes in, right? Somebody, I don't know, I'm going to make something up here. I haven't seen in a while, and they show up at my house. If you're me, I'd be going like, what the hell are you doing here? But if it's a pleasant thing, right? My attention shifts immediately. And the way people describe that is either the pain is more tolerable or I'm not really noticing the pain as much, or especially if it was anticipatory. I'm feeling depressed because I can't do the things I did because of the pain. But now my attention is focused on, oh, a friend arrived or a family member arrived. So I'm sorry we need to go for now. Some things to think about, mainly some things to practice with. Come back next week. We're going to talk about directing attention for management of pain again, but some different specific practices and comments around how do you manage to move your attention when it feels caught by something? How do you make your attention moving more flexible and more available to your control rather than just getting caught by discomfort, pain, and our conditioning? So once again, thank you all for your attention. Really appreciate you all being here. Come back next week. We'll do some more. And hopefully Vivian will be finished with her research, pain research. And I say that playfully because so often I use the stubbed toe as an example, and I manage to stub my toe before I start talking about pain. How's that for taunting the universe? Anyway, thank you all. See you next time.